So now we've created the animation graph that we can see here that contains the idle, walk and push animations, and together these control the animation logic of the character using the istate variable. And what I want to do now is to create some input mechanics for the player so that when we press different buttons on the keyboard we control the movement of the player and the animation that plays. In particular, I want to create a script that interacts directly with this istate parameter. Now, the script I need to create for this is quite lengthy, so what I've done is I've gone ahead off screen and already created the script, which I've created here named player controller C#, and I've dragged and dropped that onto the character and added it as a component. You can see the player controller here, and what I'm going to do now is to open up the script file and go through the main features of it with you to explain what it does and how it works. So I'm just going to jump over here to MonoDevelop to see the script file we've created. So here you can see the first thing that I've defined for this player controller class here is a move type enumeration, which defines the idle, walk, box push and cheer animation states for the character, and these are identified by 0, 1, 2 and 3, which correspond to the istate parameter in the animation graph. Now I'm keeping track of this variable using the player state property that I've defined here. It's a public property, and by setting and getting this player state I can control the current state that the player character is in. So if I want to make the player character in the idle state, I can set player state to idle, or I could set it to walk to activate the walk state. You'll notice here in the set function for the property that I call this line here, which is animcomp.setInteger, and this line is absolutely critical to working with the animation graph. So let's see what's going on here. If I scroll down slightly further, you can see I've created at line 38, I've created a private variable called animator animcomp, and I initialize this variable in the start function here. You can see on line 47 that I use the getComponent function to retrieve the component animator. Now if I just minimize MonoDevelop, you can see if I select the player character here in the object inspector that it has an animator component, which is where we've defined the animation controller and we control the main animation logic. I'm getting a reference to this component so that I can control it. So I'm going back to MonoDevelop here. So here in the player state variable I'm using the animcomp.setInteger, and what this function is doing is it's actually directly accessing the istate variable in the animation graph, and I'm passing it the state value, the current state that the player is in, which could be 0 for idle, 1 for walk, 2 for box push, or 3 for cheer. This is the place where we update the animation graph and actually control which animation is playing. The rest of this source file is related to really handling the movement of the player throughout the level. So right now I'm going to come back to this code, but right now let me just minimize this and let's just press play and see what's happening. So when I press play and I press the W key on the keyboard to walk forwards, you can see the player starts walking and we update that istate variable, and when I release the key we go back to a value of 0, and that really is this player state property taking effect. So that's how player state works. Next I'm going to scroll down and explain what some of these other features are doing and how they work.